Hello, my name is Cody Kellner, and I'll be talking to you today about the relationship between alexithymia and low leader member exchange scores. Is there a relationship between alexithymia and low leader member exchange scores for supervisors at the Department of Veterans Affairs? That's pretty much the main idea, the main question behind this research. Now, alexithymia, I will admit, is a word that you don't hear quite so often, but I wanted to define it at the beginning of this presentation. And it is known as the inability for an individual to describe their emotions. So if an individual is unable to describe what they're feeling, that's defined as alexithymia. Now, LMX, leader member exchange, is based upon respect, trust, an obligation between the leader and the follower. Now, in this case, the leader is the supervisor and the follower is the subordinates. Now, two of the big five personality traits will serve as mediating variables in the study, and they are going to be extroversion and conscientiousness. Now, extroversion is a personality trait that focuses on the level of comfort someone has with a relationship, where conscientiousness is related to an individual's level of reliability. Now, among all this, the significance of this research will demonstrate that a supervisor's inability to describe their emotions, which is known as alexithymia, can indeed influence their relationship with their subordinates. So, main idea here is that if a supervisor is unable to actually describe what they're feeling to their subordinates, that can have an impact on the relationship with their employees. In the literature review, I plan to review various studies involving the Toronto Alexithymia Scale, which is known as the TAS-20. And again, that will measure alexithymia. Leader member exchange will be measured on the LMX 7 survey instrument, and the Big Five personality traits will be measured by the Big Five inventory survey instrument. Now, already I've found that one study has proven a positive relationship between elements of the TAS-20 and a Big Five personality trait, which was conscientiousness, where another study has demonstrated introversion and low openness predicted alexithymia. Now, if you can recall from the previous slide, I said that extroversion is indeed one of the Big Five personality traits and will serve as a mediating variable. But what's important here, what's important to know from this study, is that introversion, obviously on the surface, is not one of the Big Five personality traits, but indirectly it is. Whereas what I'm meaning here is that if an individual scores low on the Big Five inventory in terms of their level of extroversion, then that person's more likely to be introverted. So indirectly, the Big Five inventory does measure introversion through extroversion. For my research methods, I plan to collect data by survey managers at the Department of Veterans Affairs with the TAS-20, the 44-item Big Five inventory survey instrument, and the LMX 7. What's important to note here is that all three of these survey instruments are indeed scored on 1 to 5 scales. So from that standpoint, I like that because there's consistency for the participants to range their answers. Now, obviously, the length of these survey instruments do vary. The TAS-20, again, is 20 items. The Big Five inventory is 44 items, and the LMX 7 is 7 items. Now, the TAS-20 does have 3 different elements that it measures, and the first one is difficulty in identifying feelings. The second element is difficulty describing feelings. The third element is externally oriented thinking, where the Big Five survey instrument measures 5 specific personality traits, which are agreeableness, emotional stability, openness to experience, and again are 2 mediating variables in the study, which are conscientiousness and extroversion. Now, the BFI has a 44-item survey instrument, and that's pretty much the more preferred instrument to use because it's more accurate. But there's also a 10-item survey instrument. And interestingly enough, the 10-item survey instrument is almost as accurate and as reliable as the 44-item, but not as much. I mean, it's closer than what most people think, but the 44-item is still the most preferred. But the 10-item survey instrument is still very reliable to use. What determines that is if time is of the essence. If there's plenty of time for the participants to take the survey instruments, then the 44 item is the more preferred, but if time is of the essence, then the 10 item survey instrument is the one that's recommended. Now the LMX 7 consists of 7 questions, and they're scored again on a 1 to 5 scale, such as the previous 2 survey instruments. Now the idea of this research is to determine if alexithymia results in low LMX scores. So we need to identify what a high LMX score is and what a low LMX score is. So a high LMX score is anywhere in the 30 to 35 range, and a low LMX score is anywhere between the 7 to 14 range. So if an individual's TAS-20 score is high, which measures alexithymia, then I'm expecting that individual to score low on the LMX 7 score, and their score should fall anywhere in the 7 to 14 range. Now, the overall idea of this framework is to identify any relationships between the TAS-20 and the LMX-7. So from afar, this is what the framework of this research will look like. Whereas the TAS-20 does measure alexithymia, and we're going to determine that relationship between alexithymia and LMX-7 scores, which measures leader member exchange. But more specifically, we're going to have extroversion and conscientiousness again serve as mediating variables between TAS-20 scores and LMX-7 scores. Now again, the TAS-20 does measure 3 different elements, and I'll be taking a look at those measurements as well and the relationships within those elements. Again, those 3 elements are difficulty in identifying feelings, which is shown as in DIF, difficulty describing feelings, which is shown in the box of DDF, and externally oriented thinking, which is shown as EOT. Now, there's going to be 3 different hypotheses in this research. The first one is that alexithymia affects levels of conscientiousness, extroversion, and LMX-7 scores. The second hypothesis is that extroversion affects levels of conscientiousness and LMX-7 scores. And the third hypothesis is that extroversion affects levels of LMX-7 scores. Now, in conclusion, I think this research has come quite a ways from the beginning of the semester. This is my first research study where I've worked with mediating variables, and I'm excited to see where this research goes. The Big 5 inventory is an instrument that I studied quite a bit while working on my master's degree, and I'm excited to see what results I get out of that. Specifically, that I'm drilling it down to 2 of the 5 personality traits and how they relate to alexithymia and a leadership issue, which is a leader member exchange. So again, I think we're covering a wide range of personality factors and leadership factors within this survey, within this research study, and I'm excited to see what results I get out of that. I think it's come quite a way from the standpoint from when this research study started for me. I was wanting to use all 5 of the Big 5 inventory survey, Big 5 personality traits as mediating variables, and I decided to drill it down to have a little bit tighter focus to just 2 of the 5. Now, one of the limitations I think to using the Big 5 inventory is that it does measure 5 specific personality traits, but it doesn't measure all of them. But I think the 5 that the Big 5 inventory does measure are very core concepts or very core personality traits to an individual's personality. But again, I'm excited to see what results I get out of this, and again, if there is a relationship between alexithymia and low LMX scores. I look forward to your questions on Blackboard and your comments and feedback. Thank you for your time.